want to stay with Abraham just for a few minutes this morning. Then we're going to get talking about dreams. Abraham, we're going to talk about dreaming God's dreams for the nations, because that's what happened to Abraham. He grew up to live a dream, or at least start a dream. When Jenya was young, we asked her, Jenya, what do you want to be when you grow up? This was in Saskatoon. Now she's learned to be a musician, singer, she's a teacher, and all those things. It's just an amazing voice. But you know what she wanted to be when she was a kid? A cat. We said, Jenya, what do you want to be when you grow up? She wanted to be a cat. So she married somebody who's allergic to cats. And dogs. How many are glad she didn't become a cat? I often will meet adults and say, just for a joke, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're already grown up, you know. I don't know if you've heard other people say, when I grow up, I'm going to be, because like we're always trying to become what we hoped we'd be, even when we're 45. When I grow up, and you notice that window gets a little smaller the older you get. It's hopefully time we grow up. That's actually what Candace was talking about yesterday, time for the body of Christ to grow up and mature. So let me ask you tonight, what are your dreams for your life? Some of you are young, that makes sense to ask that. Some of you are older. What's the dream for your life? If you're older, are you living it? Are you living your dream? I just saw that. That's crazy because I saw you shake your head. But you know what? I would think that you're not the only one. I would venture to guess that that's probably true for 90% of the body of Christ. They would say, not living my dream. Wow. What dreams do you have for yourself that you're not doing, that you wished you could have been doing? What dreams have you felt like you've often been held back from? What dreams, maybe let's change this a little bit. If you're thinking about a dream that's maybe even meaningful as far as helping people, maybe the church or the nations, what would that look like? What kind of dream would you have for that kind of thing? And that's where Eric's conversation came from. He had a bunch of his friends together over just a fellowship time. He said, guys, if you could change anything, what would you change in society? And some said poverty. Some said, care for this. And that's when he said, I would like to change fatherhood. I would like to see that become... So if you could help people, what would the dream look like? And I want to say this to you today. If you struggle in your life, maybe spiritually, maybe you just need a dream. Something that gets you up in the morning. Something that you live for. Where during the day you daydream about it a little bit. You think about it and you dream about it, but it's a dream maybe even for the nations. See, we need dreams to motivate us. We need a dream in our lives to accelerate into what we have. So today I want to ask you this. How about dreaming God's dreams, because he has dreams, but God's dreams for the nations? Now, if you can imagine what that might look like, let me throw some ideas out for you. When you talk about discipling the nations, let's say you start at home. Maybe that first thing isn't to go to Uganda, maybe that's not the first place you start. But how about starting discipling the nations at home? What would that look like? What is your dream? Well, how about being a teacher to influence children, not just to get a paycheck, but to be able to raise children with bright minds to think of hope and future? Maybe God will take you to train children in countries where they need teachers. But how about to be a shaper of minds as a teacher here or another? How about a politician being a judge or a politician? That you can make laws that actually change society and brings justice so that these immoral laws don't come in like they're coming in now. How about come on, wouldn't that be neat to be in a place of power where you could actually effect justice? That's why we applaud, Christopher being a lawyer and You'll get to be in a sphere, an environment of society where justice can be done and served. So if you're in the disciple nations, what's your dream? How about being a scientist that solves critical issues in the world, maybe for environmental things? Or what about being a doctor or a nurse in medicine, healthcare, where you solve health issues, and because of something God's revealed to you supernaturally, you come into the answer for something that the entire globe need. Come on. Wouldn't that be cool coming from the church or the body of Christ? How about being a dance instructor or a musician or some other place where you actually affect the arts in a place where it's a real dark world? I mean, you could be in movies. There's a real move in Hollywood right now where their church is just moving into influencing society, where right now there's more Christian movies out there than you can imagine ever before. And there are people in the media now who are being affected by the church. Come on, dream for the nations. You get the picture. What's a dream for the nations that you could have? Isn't it sad when we live for the weekend? I have some friends who, they have hobbies. They live for their hobbies. And I enjoy the same hobby. But if that was my life, I'm telling you, I need a big picture. I need to be able to do something big. I don't need a hobby to motivate me. I need more than that. I need to change life. I need to disciple. I need to just living for the weekends for people who have no dream. I enjoy a weekend too, but if I didn't have the dream to go with it, the weekend would be meaningless. I need the weekend because I'm busy going after my dream. Seriously, I need the weekend because I'm busy, and if you're a pastor, your weekends are very small. Because they always get encroached on, Rosemary said to me the other day, Friday, she said, have you thought you're speaking Sunday night, right? And I said, that's right. But I was so busy all week long with meetings and Niagara Now, so yesterday morning up at 6 o'clock. But you know what? It's exciting because I got a dream. You're only bored. You're only become really just when you're living without a dream and you live for the weekend. I'm telling you something, to live for the weekend is awfully boring if that's your dream. I mean, that gets old after a month. Seriously, that gets old if that's your life. I mean, how many weekends can you party, really? Before that just gets really old. That's why people get themselves into trouble, because they just get bored and they don't have a reason to live, and they're just like. But the fact is, God has dreams that he has in mind for the nations, and he wants to give them out if you haven't got one. And he gave a big one to Abraham, which at that time was Abraham. And his dream was to be a father of many nations, which means a father of many. I mean, that was his dream. You go to Genesis chapter 12. I haven't got time to read it, but that was his dream. God comes to him and says, Abraham, I need you to get up. I need you to move. I need you to pack your house, because I am giving to you a land that you're going to occupy, and I'm going to make you into a great nation, and everybody on earth is going to bless you, and you're going to be called blessed, and it's huge. Your nation's going to be larger than the stars in the sky or sand on the beach. Imagine a dream like that. What do you do with that? He gets up in the morning. Sarai, just got to tell you about my dream. Abram, I think you're tired. I think you need to have a weekend. That was his dream. That was God's dream given to him. So I have a question for you. How do you get a dream to go from a dream to reality? So I'm going to give you 4 or 5 thoughts on that, and then we're going to just talk quickly about the dwelling place dream, and then we're going to pray for you for your dream. Okay, sound good? So, first of all, 5 things. If you are going to take a dream and go from a dream to reality, what do you do with that? First of all, if you do not have a dream, and you're living out of, which I'm concerned is 90% of the church, then you need to get a dream. How do you get a dream? You're going to say, Dale, here he goes again. Get into the presence. It's honestly, everything starts there because Psalms 16, verse 11 says, you've made known to me, say it with me, the path to life. In your presence is the fullness of joy. The path to everything you need in life is the presence. So if you want to find the dream that God has for your life, you've got to spend your life in his presence, because it's there in that presence he will reveal his dream for you, and you can then begin to move out. And now, listen to me. A lot of people don't want to do that, and so they make up their own dream. And that dream comes out of their own desires and their own wants. A lot of people won't pay the cost of time with God. They don't want to move into that realm where they really just spend their life in the presence of God. And so they want to do something for God. So what happens is they create what they think they want to do with their life, but they did not have it revealed because they have just not spent the life in the presence. I'll tell you what happens. If you don't spend your life in the presence and you want to find out what you're going to do with your life, here's what happens. You start to do things that God never asked you to do, never wanted done in the first place. I'm concerned. There's a lot of people live in dreams like that in the world who think they're doing them for God, but he never called them. See, I'll tell you what will honestly happen. You spend your life in the presence, God will give you his dreams. That's where he will birth his dreams for your life. He will birth his dreams for your life as you live in his presence. I tell people all the time, come in, get restored, stay in the presence of God. Stay in the presence. Do not try to come up with a plan for your life. Let God birth his dream in you. And one day, while you're in the presence, you'll have a thought about something you'd like to do. Can I suggest that actually might be God putting a seed of dream in you? And he actually wants you to do that. It's in his presence he will give you your dream. It's when you pursue his presence as your number one goal, he will make the dream known. I'll tell you what happens before I go to the second point. Here's what happens. A lot of people don't want to put in the time of the presence. They don't want to do what it takes to really host his presence. They just go out and they do their own thing, and then it doesn't work. And then they get angry. And then they get burnt out. And then they get so angry, they backslide because God didn't come through for them. But he didn't promise to come through for your dream. He promised to come through for his dream and his plan. So, first place to start, in his presence. Make that your life. Resolve that issue once and for all. And if you do better than you are in the presence, please come and show me how. You'll get a dream. Number 2, take steps towards your dream. I mean, if God has actually shown you a seed, a picture, maybe there's an image that God's given you and it's in your mind and you can see yourself. It's never happened, but you can actually see it in the future. That's your dream. You know it's God. Then start taking a step towards it. If you're absolutely convinced, you already have the environment of his presence as your culture. That's very important that you actually are living within a culture of his presence. That'll be your protection from going astray. But if you already have a culture of his presence and you have a dream that you really believe is God, stay in the presence. Don't get out of that culture and start to move towards it. So God comes to Abraham and says, Abraham, pack up, go. What if he said it's a beautiful dream, but I just really don't want to pack up? He had to actually pack up. He had to actually move towards the dream. There are some people who had things, that you felt God had for you, and you're 45, 50 years old right now, and you just never moved to it. So 30 years ago, God gave you the dream, and you still haven't done it because you just didn't move towards it. You thought that somehow, bam, he would hit you in the head and drag you out the door and make you that. Sad to tell you, it's just you didn't take steps towards it. So if you have a dream that you are convinced is God, not just your wannabe, and you have a culture of the presence of God right now in your life, a consistent 24/7 culture, start moving towards the dream. Here's the thing. I read to you Genesis 17 where God said, you're going to be the father of many nations. And then he actually changed his name with an encounter. But that was Genesis 17. That was a long time. That was after the fact. See, he had to step out to move into the encounter where he would then get God's release and identity and ability to follow it. He did not have the encounter at the call. He had the encounter down the road, which then equipped him. I was reading it this morning. I was reading about when God came to him. It says God came to him and he said, okay, and all this kind of stuff. Something that was different in Genesis 17. When God came to him this time, he falls to the ground. He never fell to the ground. At least they didn't record that he fell to the ground. Just said he agreed. In Genesis 17, he falls to the ground. Something happens. He gets his encounter with God. God changes his name from Abram to Abraham and gives him a whole new identity, which now equips him to walk into his dream. If God's given you a dream and you want to go, but you're afraid, you just got to take a step towards it, and knowing that as you trust God, he's going to give you an encounter which is going to equip you for the rest of the journey. Unless you take steps towards your dream, the next step may never come. I think of Joseph, and then we're going to go to the third point. Joseph had a dream. Not Joseph. Joseph, many-colored coat. Now, I don't know if he was the smartest with what he did with his dream. But he took a step towards it, and he told his brothers. Now, maybe it didn't have to go the way it went. Maybe it did. I don't really know. But he had to take a step. He had to release his dream and get it started. As soon as he released the dream, bam, 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 it all began to happen. Some of you, your dream would already be way down the road if you took a step towards it. It stayed in your mind. I want to come back to this again. If you have a dream that you fully believe was birthed by God, and you are in a culture of his presence where you live 24/7, and you know you do, move towards your dream. Even if you don't have the full picture yet, move towards it. I didn't say move to Uganda. I said move towards the dream. Thirdly, make yourself available. If God's given you a dream, why don't you say, God, I'm going to agree with heaven for this. Here am I. Send me. That's what you did this morning. You said, this is for life. I think of Samuel. Remember Samuel? Young boy in the Hannah committed him to the Lord. We talked about him with the baby dedication guys. He's in there serving God, and he hears a voice at nighttime. And he runs to Eli, who was the head priest there, and he goes, Eli, did you call me? No, go lay down, young man. 3 times he does this. Finally, Eli, who wasn't the best priest, does get an idea of God. And he figures something's going on. He figures God's calling Samuel. Next time he says, you hear this voice, say, here am I, Lord, send me, or speak, or whatever it was. God, if he's going to give you a dream, you got to step into it and say yes. You got to say yes. I mean, honestly, why would he bring you more if you're just like, well, maybe. And he sees your heart's not really into it, Well, what if he said to Jed and Jenya, I want you to do, this music, worship music, and they just, oh, yes. But then they just don't really do much about it. Well, their life wouldn't back up their yes. Like if God gives you a dream for the nations, then step into it. At the very least, take Samuel's response. Hear my Lord speak. I'm listening. What do you want me to do? Or live till you're 65 and never do it. That's your options. And then retire and always have wishes. We have nation builders right in this room here right now. We do. You guys are in a place where if you will step out and say, yes, Lord, here am I. Send me, speak to me, I'm listening, your servant's listening. How many know that the issue is not really, are there people? The issue is, will they listen? Will they dream God's dreams? How would saying, God, that's your dream. I want it to be my dream. Come on. This is exciting stuff. Then number 4. If you have a dream and you know it's of God, you're in a culture of his presence, so you have a safety. You have people who will talk to you if you're going off course, as long as you're going to let them. If you're in that environment, step into it, move towards it, say, yes, Lord, here am I. I'm listening. I want to be part of your dream. The next, train and equip yourself for the dream. I see something and I've learned something, and here's where a lot of people fail. God may give a dream, but people want to go from the dream right now to the fulfillment in a week. They want to go from the dream to the fulfillment in a week, even if they're not ready. This is a tragic mistake that's been made all the time in the body of Christ. Someone gets excited about something God has. He's given them a dream, but there's this little word called process they don't want to follow. And they're not ready for the dream yet. Nor will they let anybody train them, even God himself, to fulfill the dream. And so this whole thing about process gets completely bypassed. So when you get a dream, understand you need to go through this time period of process where you are trained to live for the dream, to live out the dream, to be equipped for the dream. I think of Daniel and his friends brought into the king's courts. There was 3 years of training. We talked about that in House of His Presence. I began to think about other people in the Word of God. Moses, God called him. He was trained by Pharaoh's household. Before he ever went, he didn't even know it. I don't know who said this, but it's so cool. He was trained in royalty. So he would treat God's people to learn what it means to live royally. All these years, God trained him. Then he would have thought, okay, I'm ready. No, he had to spend another 40 years being trained in the hardships of the desert. So he had all his life being trained in the Pharaoh's court. Then he had another 40 years. Joshua trained under Moses. David was trained by Saul, then by bad Saul, then by trials being chased by Saul. But he was trained. He didn't go from a dream of being king to being king. He was trained. Process. I want to say one thing here. If you have a dream, you're in the culture, you're of his presence, you know it's his dream, you're moving towards it, get engaged with the process. Everyone listen to me. You must have the attitude that says, I don't know it all, but I'm ready to be trained. And I'm ready to come under somebody's training. I'm ready to go through a mentorship. I was thinking of Elijah and Elisha. Isn't that cool? He was under the mentorship. Elisha was under the mentorship of Elijah. So finally, if you're going to live out your dream, you can't skip the process of equipping. I want to now revisit the dream that we have at Dwelling Place. I'm going to end with this, with our dream. First of all, those are 4 things that if you have a dream, if you have a dream, if you don't have a dream, get in the presence. Secondly, take steps towards your dream. Thirdly, make yourself available. Fourthly, train and equip yourself for the dream. Now, I want to talk to you about the dream that we have at Dwelling Place here. First of all, it's in a synopsis. It's in a vision statement. Let me read it. Our vision, our dream is to host the presence of God for the transformation of lives here in Dwelling Place, Niagara Falls, the city, the region, and beyond. To host his presence, to host the nations here and around the world. Through daily prayer and worship, rebuilding the tabernacle of David, we will cultivate an atmosphere of his presence and glory where people searching can experience an encounter with the presence of our Heavenly Father. That's our dream. Now, what does that dream look like practically? Let me just share it with you, then I'm going to pray for you guys. I want you to see our dream. I want you to see where we're going. I want you to see what the Dwelling Place dream is about. We've shared it many times, but I need to bring it back to you again very quickly. So what does that dream look like? I just read to you what it was, but what does that look like practically? Well, first of all, we have taken steps towards it. And we have sold this building. This building has officially been sold. I shared that on Wednesday night. I had the papers in my hand at 4:30, basically, that said, done deal. November 30th, we moved to our temporary home. Why? Why have we done this? It's because of a dream. Let me share the dream. God has called us, in essence, to become what we are believing is now an apostolic equipping center. Okay, an apostolic equipping center. I shared this already with the leadership. This is what we really see God creating us to be as Dwelling Place. God has called us to be an apostolic equipping center where we host the presence of God, simultaneously equipping people to send them into the 7 mountains of culture. We've been calling that the 7 sectors here in Niagara Falls for many years, but the 7 mountains of culture. What are those 7 mountains? There's the church, there's the family, there's education, there's government, there's arts and entertainment, health, medical, and then there's business. These are the 7 mountains of influence in the culture that we live. Every one of those mountains are part of the culture of society. They all are there within the realm of the city. Every one of those things exists within Niagara Falls. We are believing that God's calling us to be an equipping center, an apostolic equipping center, where we can send people into every one of those mountain sectors to influence society for the kingdom of God. It's our dream. We have been doing this for years and years and years already. It's now we're realizing that God has actually called us to this as an end time deal, the whole deal. So how are we going to do that? We're going to equip people to go into these mountains of influence and culture with the presence of God and see the kingdom of God influence that area of culture. How will that happen? Well, we'll preach about it like we're doing now. We will equip with seminars and training schools that teach you, and conferences specifically designed for those purposes. So instead of having a conference for just come and get revived, we're going to have a conference, how to influence government. And you'll come for the whole entire weekend with that, the topic. How to influence education. We will bring in teachers. We'll bring in Christian educators who will come and teach about that the whole weekend. How about arts and entertainment? They're already starting to do that this fall. So we're going to equip with seminars and conferences. Our dream practically lived out is this, is to have a 24/7 prayer center. A 24/7 prayer center. If you are a intercessor in our church and you're staying home Wednesday mornings and you could be here, man, jump into the dream right now. Join Rosemary and Burl. Come on, get in the dream. Don't stay home twiddling your thumbs when you could be doing something powerful. Seriously, this is going big. We're going to have a place, an actual room. God's given us years ago a picture of what this is going to look like as a church, where it can be accessed from outside and come in 24 hours a day to be part of the prayer center for intercession for the city, the region, the nation, and the world. Along with this, we're going to have a healing ministry center connected to this. We're going to do life transformation ministry, where that'll be just some people's ministries, just to do healing school, healing transformation ministry, freedom ministry like we do already. Our dream is to have an ongoing house of his presence. I picture people coming in for a conference and camping on the lawn, whatever, doing something, and just coming every day for a week, and that's their holiday, see the falls, come, get in the presence of God, and just this. So people are going to go, we're going to the falls, but we're going to also stay for a week and get the presence of God in us before we go back to our city. Seriously. Now, I want to say, these things I've shared, they're not things we want to do, they're things we are doing right now. And you got to get this in your heart, because this is where we're going. This latest term of the equipping, the Apostolic Equipping Center, that's what we've been, that's what we're doing. We just didn't have a name for it until recently. So we already are doing that, but God's calling us to do that large, in a big way. And to do that, we have felt directed by God that this building is not equipped for that purpose. So why did we sell the building? Because the vision, the dream I just gave you, this building does not serve that purpose. And so God has already given us years ago a picture of what that building looks like, and it's designed specifically for what I just shared with you. And so that's our design. That's where we're going. We've sold this building so we can go into the purposes of God. And so for the next couple of years after we leave here in November, we then begin to prepare for the building of a building that fits the dream.